John Calipari, when are you going to grow some balls and just take responsibility for your actions and own up to it? You're a flat out grown man. Quit making excuses. The past couple of years for John Calipari in Kentucky haven't been exactly too smooth in what most Kentucky fans are used to. From around the time frame 2010 up until 2015, they won a national title and had 4 Final Four appearances. However, in the past 6 to 7 years, they haven't made a single Final Four. Recently though, the past 2 years were some of the worst, and I know this year the regular season was okay and it was really good at times, but you're always going to be evaluated off of what you do in the postseason. With that being said, in the past 2 years, you went 9-16, had one of the worst seasons of all time, and then you got bounced out by a 15 seed, which is embarrassing, and we don't even have to speak on that. As bad as things have been for Kentucky and John Calipari, and don't take that lightly because it has been bad. There has been many fans out there claiming and stating they want Coach Calipari fired. Should he be fired? I don't know about all that. That seems a little too extreme, but you can't deny the fact Kentucky's not in the best shape ever right now. And with what just happened, we're going to talk about all in this video. Let's just say, I don't want to say things have gotten worse, but the entire situation, it got messier. There is a really big mess currently going on at Kentucky, and I would not want to be in John Calipari's shoes. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like basketball content, consider hitting that subscribe button, helping out the channel. It really means a lot, and honestly, it helps out the channel. So I hope you guys enjoy. Without further ado, let's get into it. We all know or should know that Kentucky, they lost to St. Peter's. It was embarrassing. It is what it is. So since they did have that early round exit, Calipari, he's been on the recruiting search because he doesn't have anything else to do. His team's not playing. He's done a lot of interviews, and in one of them he stated there is a ton of players that are willing to transfer to Kentucky out of the portal. In this interview, he would go on to say, "We are everybody's Super Bowl, and we have to make sure whoever comes can handle that environment. As I've said, this isn't for everybody." Whether you hate them or like them, that's a fact. Everybody, they strive to beat Kentucky, and that is their Super Bowl. I brought that up to say this. One of the rumors going on about a transfer that could possibly come in is Scottie Pippen Jr., who played for Vanderbilt. I'm sure most of you watching this are familiar with Scottie Pippen Jr. because you more than likely know Scottie Pippen, and that's his son. The rumor going on, and we'll talk about the other guy in just a second, is that Shaedon Sharpe, if he goes to the NBA, then Scottie Pippen, he'll come in. I'm going to give you my 2 cents on Pippen. I don't think he's that good, and I think he's one of the most overrated players in the SEC. I'm not going to be delusional and say he's terrible and he's average. No. He's a good basketball player. I just don't think he's as good as some people make him out to seem. As a basketball fan, just watching him play, I literally cannot stand it. The way he was playing in the last 5 to 6 games for Vanderbilt pisses me off because it doesn't even look like he's trying to score. He's flopping all over the court, and he wants to go to the line and shoot 25 free throws. And for some odd reason, he gets every single call. He'll throw his body into defenders and they call it. There's not another way to say it. I hate the way he plays basketball. He plays like a little B word. It's not so much that he tries to draw a lot of fouls, it's more the fact whenever he doesn't get one single call, he cries and complains to the refs, and I hate that. Regardless, let me get back on topic. If Kentucky does land Pippen, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think he's a slightly better version of Davion Mintz, who they will be losing, but I don't even think he's better than Ty Washington. And Washington wasn't even that great this year. The only reason Pippen averaged 20 points at Vanderbilt is because, like I said, he would go 4 for 16 from the field, but he was making 15 free throws a game. As much as I don't like him, and you guys can clearly get that vibe from me already, I don't understand and see how he would even fit in with Kentucky's system. Pippen is a guy who wants the ball in his hands 24/7, and at Kentucky, that's not going to happen. You got to share the load. The other notable rumor going on is that Missouri center, who I think could be better to your team than adding Pippen, is Brazil, and he's almost 7 foot, and he's real versatile. Those are the 2 most interesting transfers that could possibly come in. Let's get into the juicy and interesting stuff, and that's Shaedon Sharpe and Ty Washington. Ever since day one, I've said this, and I'm going to stick to it. I would be beyond shocked if Shaedon Sharpe plays for Kentucky next year. I think he's going to the NBA draft. According to all the sources, he could potentially be a lottery pick, and if not a lottery pick, he could go in the top 20. I don't think it's a if, but when Kentucky does lose Sharpe, it's going to be a big blow because he's arguably one of the most talented basketball players, not just in college basketball, but maybe the entire world. He's a talented and gifted guy. That's why he was a 5-star recruit, and I think he's slightly better than Ty. Here's what Calipari had to say. you have a better idea what everything is then. Until these kids get that information, it's hard. What he's referring to in that quote is that Sharp's going to test the waters, but until he gets information back from these NBA teams and scouts, he's not too sure if he's going to come back or leave. For example, he could go to these scouts and they'd say, hey, you're a top 10 pick, then yeah, he's going to leave Kentucky. But if he does go to the scouts and they say, yeah, you're going to be a second round pick, then he'd go back to Kentucky. Right now, as to when I'm speaking, it's leaning towards, yeah, he's going to leave, but we won't know for sure until later. Moving on to what I think is Kentucky's second best player behind Sheboy last year is Washington, and his dad tweeted out, year 1 in the books. Thank you to the GOAT. Me personally, I don't think that has anything to do with saying, oh, Washington, he's done, he's going to the league. But I've seen a lot of Kentucky fans seeing that tweet and overreacting. Very similar to Sharp, and maybe even more so. Ty Washington, I think he's almost a 99% lock to go to the NBA draft. I think Kentucky has a better shot at getting Sharp back than Ty. Fast forward in time to our current date, it is now appearing and looking like they're going to lose both of them. And I know all these Kentucky fans are going to say, oh, not a big deal, we're going to replace them with some other 4 or 5 star. I see where you're coming from, but I would have to strongly disagree. And also, it's just been released like literally 15 minutes ago that Dante Allen is transferring from Kentucky. Whoa, hold on. I know what you're sitting there saying. Yo, Matt, Dante Allen, he didn't even play. Yeah, I get that, but here's my counter argument. The way it's looking right now, you're going to lose Sheboy, Washington, Kellen Grady, Davion Mintz, and Shaden Sharp, and Dante Allen, but he didn't really play. Sheboy could come back. I don't really see why, and I didn't get that vibe that he was coming back because he cried at the end of the game against St. Peter's. And when somebody cries after the last game of the season, normally that means that's their last one with the team. His draft stock is also at an all-time high, and he's not going to increase it next year. I don't think Sheboy, he's coming back. We haven't even talked about this. They are losing Kellen Grady, but to me, that's not even a loss. I think he hurt the team more than he helped them later in the season. I said this in one of my previous videos, and I am going to say it again. I am so proud I can say that I was never on the Kellen Grady hype train. Never saw the hype in him. The only thing he could do was catch and shoot. Besides that, he was a liability on defense and he couldn't drive and make plays. I do want to give him his credit. He had his fair share of good games, and when he was making his shots, he was a good player to have on the court. But that's also the problem and the curse about his game. If he's not making shots, he's almost irrelevant out there. Let's say for the sake of this video that you lose Ty, Shaden Sharp, and Kellen Grady, and you maybe possibly get Scottie Pippen Jr. Well, to be honest, I don't see Scottie Pippen doing too much better than Grady. They don't have a similar play style, but how effective they will be on the court is similar. If they're hitting shots, you're going to think they're good, but if they're not making shots, it's going to be terrible. Oh man, don't even get me started if they lose Sheboy. That's half of their team. You take him off Kentucky, they wouldn't have won 20 games, and I say that to the day I die. He carried this Kentucky team all throughout the season. He got some help here and there, but I expect that out of his teammates. However, with all that bad stuff being said, I have some good news, but also bad news. The good news is that it looks like Sahvir Wheeler might be coming back. The bad news is that it looks like Sahvir Wheeler might be coming back. Wheeler looks like a great and humble and just all around cool guy to be around. Unfortunately for him, he's not too tall and he's not a great basketball player. You know what? Scratch that. I'm going to go as too far as to saying he's not average, he's not good. He's slightly above average. If he was 6'4", 6'5", we'd be having a completely different conversation. The bad things about his game is that he's short and he can't shoot the basketball to save his life. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we all know this by now. In 2022, if your point guard can't shoot, you're not going to go that far in the NCAA tournament. I don't care if you average 20 assists a game. If Wheeler can't shoot the three-pointer or even a mid-range consistently, he's not taking Kentucky past the round of 32 or maybe even the Sweet 16. They don't respect his shot. I haven't even brought this up, but it's just kind of obvious. He's a liability on defense. Do not, and I mean do not get me wrong, do I think he hurts Kentucky like Kellen Grady did sometimes this year? No, absolutely not. Here's my final take on Wheeler. He does help Kentucky more than he hurts them. He just doesn't help them enough to carry them to a national championship. Unless I missed something, that's what Kentucky fans, y'all expect out of your team, right? Y'all want to compete for championships. I'm not saying you got to win it every year, but you want to be in the Final Four, or at least get past St. Peter's, right? Last but not least, before we end off this video, Calipari also stated that he felt like the team never got back to where they were before Ty and Wheeler got hurt. He said, quote unquote, "We never had the swagger my teams always have." John Calipari, when are you gonna grow some balls and just take responsibility for your actions and own up to it? You're a flat out grown man. Quit making excuses. I hate to even bring it up, but I got to. He's the gold standard. Look at Nick Saban. The reason I bring him up so much is because he's the best of the best and we'll never see somebody like him ever again. What makes Saban so good is he doesn't make excuses. He owns up to his mistakes and his failures. Against Georgia in the national championship, they lost, and after the game, he even said that Kirby Smart in Georgia, they kicked Alabama's ASS. I'm not making that up. You can go look it up. He openly said that on TV. It's the same scenario with Kentucky. Alabama in the championship game had one of their best players get hurt, and you didn't see Saban get up at the press conference and say, "Oh yeah, we didn't have our swagger once Jameson Williams got hurt." No, he just admitted they lost the game to Georgia, who was the better team. I believe 100% that Kentucky fans would enjoy and like Calipari more if he would just own up to his mess and his excuses. Instead of blaming it on injuries and say we never got that swagger back and blah 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 blah, if he would have said, "Yeah, St. Peter's, they just whooped our butt and we got to get better," people would respect him and like him more. Say what you want about Calipari. He's a great recruiter, one of the best recruiters of all time, but he is not a great coach. I just can't stand that quote, him talking about, "Oh, we never got our swagger back." So are you telling me that you got out-swaggered by St. Peter's? I mean that in the most respectful way possible. They don't even have a 3-star recruit and they have terrible facilities. That's a real and legit question I'm asking you guys. You Kentucky fans, I'm not a Kentucky fan. Is he trying to say they got out-swaggered by St. Peter's? He's one of those people where when you hear him talk and the more he talks, you just sit there and say, "Man, will you shut up?" That's all I gotta say. This video is already way longer than I anticipated it to be. My takeaway from everything we talked about, next year for Kentucky is going to be very interesting. For my Kentucky fans, if you thought this year was questionable, I wouldn't say it was bad. You had a good regular season. Wait for next year. Let me know your thoughts down below. But with all that being said, that's going to wrap up this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. You know what to do. If you like the content, subscribe. If not, that's cool. I'm out, y'all. Peace.